Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome to the video. I'm going to be covering Ira as my next ninja deck on the channel. It's been quite some time since I've covered Ira, but some things have changed, like the deck has had a complete makeover and it is now even more competitively viable as my previous list. It has a very good matchup against Assassin specifically, which is why I'm currently optimizing this over Syndra. I did drop a couple of Syndra lists on my Patreon a few days ago, but I think Ira is just a better deck in the current meta because there's way too much disruption going on in the format. So I think having something that can rely on some solid on-hits with things like Command and Conquer and being able to pull off a full-on fatigue plan is just better in general, especially since we have things like the quick dodge flexes now, and we have flexibility with the weapons as well, that we can now main deck a Zephyr Needle and even a Flick Knives, because we have ways of bringing our daggers back from the graveyard onto the battlefield with to pick up the point and up sticks and run, which is just very nice. Like, I've done so many cool combos with these, like for example attacking with the Zephyr Needle on the first chain link. The opponent usually takes the bait, puts like a 3-block card in front of that, you follow it up with a Kodachi, you use your Flick Knife, throw the Zephyr Needle at the opponent, you can potentially get a resource back with the Blood Splattered Vest, so that you're now back at 2 resources, and then you can play a pick up the point, pay the 1, get your Zephyr Needle back onto the field, and then you can still have some room to follow that up with something like a Pounding Gale. I really love this plays, it's just so amazing, like all the things you can do, and this is it's just a 4 for 0, right? And your next deck attack gains +4. It's just very good in general. And we also have another card that I'm now playing, which is Dual Threat. Like, this is just a 6 for 0. In this deck, you again can pull off the same shenanigans. You attack with a Kodachi, you follow that with something like a Spinning Wheel Kick, so now you've got the value out of Ira's hero ability. Then you can usually break the combat chain because the opponent tends to block the second chain link, so you don't need to worry about your mask anymore. You play your Dual Threat, you come in with your Zephyr Needle for 5, so you don't have to worry about this one breaking, and then you can follow it up with a big attack like a Pounding Gale, for example, for 8, generating an absolute ton of value in a single turn. I am still running the E-Strikes though, because we are running so many defense reactions. Like, we have a playset of Sing Belows, Shelter from the Storm, we have 6 copies of Flick Flag in here. We do run into issues that sometimes you just draw into too many defense reactions in a single turn, and then you cannot pressure your opponent. And in those turns, it's sometimes nice to have an E-Strike sitting in your arsenal, for example, that you can play it, put one of your defense reactions on the bottom of the deck, and still being able to get that +2 value out of it. So I like E-Strike in that regard in the deck, but it's a bit awkward because we don't have Snapdragon Scalers anymore, so we cannot do the play that we used in the past where we play this, draw a card, so we already have the 8 value, and then we can decide whether or not we want to Snapdragons after that. We cannot do that anymore, which is a little bit sad. Maybe I should have Snapdragon skills in the sideboard, but for now I like it as kind of like a filter card to fix bad hands if we do run into them. So that's why the E-Strike is still here, but you don't need it in here. You can run something else as well, like anything that has 4 value is good enough in this deck. We still run a playset of Command and Conquer, probably the best card in the deck still. You attack with a Kodachi, you follow that with a Command and Conquer for 7 thanks to Ira. It's just good stuff, and usually your opponent is going to either overblock in ways that they shouldn't, or they're just going to be straight up losing the arsenal, which makes this like a 10 value card. And keep in mind, like, you can even pull stuff off where you Kodachi for 1, play something like the Spinning Wheel Kick like I mentioned earlier, and at that point you can play your Dual Threat, come in with 5 with this, and then follow that with a Command and Conquer for a whopping 9 damage. 9 damage Command and Conquer is an easy breakpoint to block, but it's still really hard for your opponent to deal with, so I absolutely love having this card in here. So other than that, like, what has changed in the deck? Like, we have all the 1 power attacks in here now, And still, I go for all the 3 blocks, the 0 cost one, so that we can give the Kodachi go again. But the reason why I'm running 1 power attacks now is because we have Rotten Remains. Rotten Remains allows us to banish a bunch of these 1 power attacks as well as our bonus 1 power attacks to buff this one to insane amounts of value. You can sometimes get 8 value out of a single card with the Rotten Remains, and especially against decks like Assassin, it really helps you to pull ahead and win the game that way. Warmonger's Diplomacy, really good into Fang, also really good into all the rangers out there, and I think to some extent it's also quite good against Assassin at the right moment, because they do have a bunch of non-attacks nowadays, especially to be able to fetch stuff back from the graveyard. So sometimes you can catch them in an awkward spot if you play this at the right time. We have the weakest link for the part of Mistfield deck specifically because they have so many 0 blocks, and then we have sensors. Like, sensors are a little bit skill intensive, like you do need to know what all the other decks play, but thanks to things like the Sound the Alarm, usually you do have a rough guess of what they might be having in their hand in a follow-up turn. So you can usually censor the thing that you that you think they are most likely going to have. It's not gonna hit all the time, but it does help you to kind of filter out those cards that you know would make you lose the game, and you can kind of turn things into your favor that way. I still run 3 copies of Arcane Barrier along with a playset of Oasis Respite. I know that maybe now there's not going to be all that much Kano, and I could probably cut the 2 Arcane Barrier out as well as the playset of Oasis Respite and just use that sideboard space to maybe make my Assassin matchup even better. But I like having the peace of mind that if I do end up against a Kano player, I have these sitting in the sideboard, so I can bring it in and have a good matchup against them, because we have plenty of blues to be able to pitch against them, so usually fighting something like a wizard shouldn't be all that problematic. We have plenty of tools to present a significant amount of aggro as well, so usually you can win those matchups. And then we have the Vampires of Determination. This one is here specifically for the Enigma matchup. Using this one as a reaction at the right time does make things awkward for them. Usually you can get rid of several Spectral Shields at the same time, so quite like this card in that regard. So other than that, I think I've covered pretty much everything I want to say about this deck. I absolutely love the deck. I've had a lot of fun with it. I will be writing a sideboard guide over on Patreon and probably Metafy in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. But really happy with the deck. I really love that the playstyle is still very similar to what I'm used to with Ira, but is distinct enough that it feels like a new playstyle, new style of deck with all the dagger throwing and bringing them back and all those shenanigans. So if you like that kind of playstyle, I can highly recommend this deck. I've tested it quite a bit. It's quite a good deck. It does require a little bit of mastery to get a good feel of how far you can push the deck in terms of damage and how much you need to hold back. Like, my advice is it's still a block 2, attack with 2 styles of strategy where you just try to block at least 6 damage every single turn so that you can prolong the game and get the most out of Ira's hero ability, because the more turns that you can save for yourself, the more turns that you're going to get a free 1 value out of the hero ability, which makes the whole value equation a little bit different. Like, your 6 block is actually turning into a 7 block, kind of like a 7 value block, simply because you will have an extra turn to utilize the hero ability, if that makes any sense. But yeah, if you want to support me, you can do so on patreon.com/Kugane Gaming. I will be setting up Metafy in the very near future as well, where I will be doing some full-on mastery guides for various heroes as well, so keep an eye out for that. I will definitely do a post of that here on the channel in the community tab once that is completely set up. And yeah, other than that, I think that's all I wanted to share today. I hope this was useful to you, especially now when the meta is still shaping up. I hope you will have a lot of fun with this deck now that there's a lot of uncertainty going on. I will be updating Fang, I will be updating Syndra, and I will also be updating Arachne. And I have recently updated Fire as well, so these are the 5 decks that I'm going to be focusing on in the next few months. So Ira, Syndra, Phi, Fang, and Arachne. Which Arachne, I'm not sure about, probably slipped through the cracks. I like that one quite a bit, but I might also, if the Marionette turns out being the better Arachne, I will probably switch over to that one. So thank you for watching, everyone. See you all soon, and have a great day.